Yeah, look,
We are live. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Mindset segment. It's been a day, a week, a month, a year to date. I'm sure you can relate to that, Brad, as I am. I'm just going to quickly
yes,
press live on Instagram, and then we are good to go. Yeah.
you got it.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's like I was trying to explain earlier when we were in backstage. You when you go through these like shift and changes and you observe your environment and you start to pick up patterns, you have to ask the question like, what am I, how am I showing up to be able to attract this into my world? As a business owner, you know, the way I showed up 10 years ago, the way I showed up 5 years ago, or even last month, is it still valid to where my business is now? And is it serving a purpose? And then that kind of led me on to start thinking about our emotional investment. And is that still valid when you grow? Do you still need that? Is it something you should taper back? Yeah, and so that's why my latest article is around that, and I was hoping we can talk through that today.
Yeah. I mean, for those that are just joining us from whether it's Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn, we always endeavor to have real conversations and discuss real growth, whether there are growth barriers or obstacles, or actually how did we grow to get to that point. Um, yeah, it's honest conversations. It's what we are feeling even and growing through ourselves in the moment. So don't ever think Brad and I are showing up here as the experts only, or wearing the hat of the experienced entrepreneur or SMME. Yes, we have experiences, and we come here to share. But I love this topic today, and it's so apt. And Brad and I didn't get a lot of opportunity to check in with one another prior to this, but it is topical for many people, talking about emotional disinvestment. The missing step in scaling your business is what we're going to discuss today. Um, I mean, for all of us that start a business, we are passionate, but like the only thing Brad and I covered before we came on, what does that passion cost us? And should we be doing a cost benefit analysis around how it's serving us or where it's doing a disservice for us? So, Brad, I mean,
Oh,
I almost feel
yeah,
like I
look,
want to take a deep breath before we start because
we have
I've
to
had a bit
also,
of.
we have to also. I've been speaking to a lot of business owners, and a lot of us feel the same. And I'm never a person that listens to the news and like pays attention to everybody says this and the world is doing that. But for the first time, I actually just kind of took a kind of like a gauge of the environment and
Mm,
spoke to other business owners out there and allowed them to vent around, where are we in this year? And a lot have said, I'm just so tired. And it's nothing, it's not one thing. It feels like it's just coming from all sides. And
mm.
it got me thinking around what actually makes you tired. Is it the rejection from the clients? Is it, the pressure you get from your team? Is it the pressure you get at home? Or is it maybe from the amount of emotion you invest in your business and in your work environment?
Brad, it's all of the above and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, you know what? So I was going to tell you, and I hope this is not weird for life, but I was going to actually tell you that. So, I know we all have different spiritual backgrounds. So
Yeah.
I come from a background where, I picked up this talent in Europe when I was living there to do tarot reading. And what I
Mm.
did is, and I used to actually do it quite a bit, I used to get paid for it as well. And
Wow.
yeah, and what I did is I started to introduce daily reads. So I would just pull a single card out and that would give me a guide
Mm.
for the day. Because at one stage I was like, what the hell? Like I've been doing this for so long and it's just like I actually don't have the roadmap forward. And my messaging that I received, and I mean, again, we all have different spiritual backgrounds. So this could be, daily prayer. This could be engagement with, your spiritual guides, etc. But for me, it's the cards, and the cards were doing a lot of, you're on the right path. You need patience, but you need to disinvest from the amount of emotions you put into your business. So, as business owners, we put everything into our businesses because we see that as our success indicator. Because if we're successful in our business, we're paying our bills, we're going on holiday, we're sending our kids to school, that kind of is our kind of gauge on success. But when we get to a point where the money's not there to do those things, because we've invested so much emotionally, we start to get very tired. And that is the very time we actually can't afford to be tired. So the article really just tackles things like, is it, emotional investment in the beginning of your stage of your business is great. It makes sense. It's natural. You've got a little baby that you're taking care of. But as you get older into your business, how do we disinvest, and how do we still show up every day, but kind of scale down the emotional dial? And I'm on my own. So that's what's kind of what I was thinking through. And the daily reads and everything has really, really helped me. And I know it's like really weird to do. So Lee is coming back on. But I was just talking to myself, I think.
I lost connection there. Sorry about that.
No, me, myself, and Irene. Literally.
Listen, let me just put something out there. Today has been an insane day, so much so that I set this for 3:00 till 4:30 instead of 3:30 to 4:30. Then when I finally rectified it, I went and changed it. But Kelsey just sent a message, "You're on shifting from Grudge." I said, that's the only space where it says that. Everywhere else it says the entrepreneur mindset. So for the viewers, forgive the craziness, but this is life, right? It's imperfectly perfect. And we're talking about this topic around how emotionally invested we are and what is the cost. And here's one perfect example of a cost: multitasking and trying to do everything and be everything all at once does have a cost. But I'm going to leave you to continue on that me, myself, and Irene thought. What were you saying?
No, I was just reflecting on just the messaging that I received about this. Just a lot of it was in limbo. So in your tarot space, you have a card that's got a hanged man, which is kind of hanging by his one ankle. And it's all about, but he's not in pain. He's actually doing it voluntarily, and he's actually enjoying it because it gives him an opportunity to reflect on things that are a little bit, from a little bit of a different angle, but also to be in a space of limbo. And I thought there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in limbo. We don't always, and my personality is an action personality. So I love to just get things done, and I don't like waiting. Waiting is not my thing. But there is something beautiful when you disinvest emotionally and you then move into a limbo space. It doesn't affect you as much as it would initially if you were going full throttle into this. So it's kind of becoming a way of protection. So I think we maybe should unpack what we mean by emotional disinvestment, and
I think so too. I think so too.
What are we talking about when we say emotion? So from your side, what are you thinking?
For me, how I perceive it, I haven't read your article because I just haven't had the capacity. But we said we don't need to do that. We're showing up here in the authenticity of it all. Emotional disinvestment for me, firstly, emotions is my energy in motion, right? So if that's my energy that's in motion, the disinvestment component or aspect of it is really, where is my energy misaligned and no longer in alignment with why I started the business or my value system and the purpose itself. And we do need to take stock of that. So that's my understanding of it, but I could be wrong because that's my interpretation.
there's no right or wrong here. It's, for me, the emotional disinvestment is, I carry a lot of attachment to my business. And, my business has got now, because we're more than one business, we have like a partnership operational structure where other people have shares in the business and they don't show up the way I do. They just don't. And I carried a lot of resentment around that and a lot of negative emotions around that, in the sense of, can you not see what I've built for so long? Why are you not buying into what I view? Why are you not? And because you show up with all of that, it makes it very difficult for you to sit in that hanged man situation where you go, but hang on, they might not see it the way I do, but they're coming in and showing up every day. So is there not an opportunity for you to now pull out that intensity and allow the business to then grow in its own space? And it's actually helped me become more business orientated in my decision making. It's helped me to be a lot more calmer, a lot more understanding that people are just not going to show up like you, and they are going to disappoint you. It is going to happen. As a person that starts their business and runs a one-man band and then builds their business up into a team, there are going to be people out there that are going to disappoint you, people very close to you. And if you're too emotionally involved in that, you're going to take that very, very difficult. That's going to hit you very hard.
Yeah, Brad, you just described something on how I felt on Monday. And I was also, even though we've got the wrong title at the top, shifting from grudge, that resentful state is that grudge state, right? And I was in that. I was like, aren't you seeing and experiencing what I am? And aren't you as invested as I am in this? But they can't be, because your mission and your why isn't their mission and the why. And even if they show up every day, as you say, but I felt on Monday so misaligned with people that I collaborate with on certain things. And I was questioning, is this still a good collaboration even? Where's the disconnect here? Why am I feeling so disjointed? But at the beginning, a short 3 months ago, I felt very aligned to work and collaborate with these individuals. And now I'm starting to ask, what does this all mean? Is there still a fit? And like you said, there's no right or wrong here, but are those the type of questions we should be asking ourselves when this topic around emotional disinvestment surfaces for us?
Yeah, so as look, man, like you said, we're not showing up perfect, but remember when we chatted a while ago, I explained that, for me, I'm doing a lot of trauma clearing. I've got a spiritual coach who's helping me. So I'm a big believer, regardless of where your spiritual core lies. And again, for me, it's just no right or wrong. For me, it's actually just one linear space. But wherever your spiritual core lies, plays a very important role in how you approach your business as a business owner, and also kind of how you approach challenges in life itself. So I really do, and I like to believe that I put a lot of spiritual validation into integrating that into your business strategy. Sorry if that makes sense. So my journey with my journey with my spiritual coach has been around trauma clearing. And when you do trauma clearing, one of the things that you get taught is that when you're faced with something, so stupid example, you go fill up with fuel and someone takes your spot at the pump and they get really aggressive with you and you get really aggressive and you have an argument with the person and you really lash out, and afterwards you drive away and that trauma sits with you for a while. It's what I've learned is that it's a mirror. It's mirroring something that person attacking you is mirroring something that you need to deal with internally. It's a bit of a weird concept, but it really, yeah. So the point is that I think we should be looking at challenges we have in our businesses and asking ourselves the question, what is this mirroring back to me? What is my insecurity behind this? Why am I being triggered by this? And I think if you disinvest from an emotional perspective and you work through that trauma, you will get to a point where that will not trigger you anymore. And that will give you a business advantage. So that's kind of how I got there.
Yeah, I mean, I love this part in your article where you said you resist. I'm going to read just a small part. You said the emotional investment phase. In the early years, emotional investment is necessary. You're learning, building, hustling. You should care deeply. But as the business grows, what used to feel like care can start to feel like control. You risk delegating because no one will do it like you. You take feedback personally because this is your baby. You burn out quietly because you can't afford to drop the ball. The truth you asked, you've stopped leading the business and started being the business, which is obviously dangerous. And those triggers, I wholeheartedly agree. I was asking myself also on Monday's experiences, why am I this triggered? And my other peers that were with me gave me feedback afterwards to say that my own need for perfectionism, for high standards, and being a hyperachiever is obviously derailing this partnership and collaboration to some extent, because the other individuals is still in their own transitional growth phase, maybe at the start of the emotional investment stage. And now I'm kind of feeling like things are out of control. It's a tough position to be in, and it's exhausting because now you have to bring people to where you are, and you may not have the capacity. So the trigger for me is I need to grow my business. I need to expand.
Yeah, so I think that if I may say, and I'm in no position to give you any kind of like therapy or anything like that, but the trigger for me is, you're very sensitive around the growth of your business. I think you and I feel the same about our businesses.
Yeah.
We're sensitive around the growth of our business. When somebody comes along and doesn't deliver on a promise, that's the trigger. But when that person doesn't deliver on the promise or doesn't result in business, it's not actually because of them. It's because you hold this emotional resentment around growth. You've got to deal with growth. And you've got to deal with the fact that realistically, you cannot double your revenue overnight. But your expectation is that on yourself. So that emotional investment that you've put into yourself to grow your business, double your revenue overnight, is forming you, like I've said in the article, from managing to controlling. And that is negatively impacting your business, which is actually slowing down your growth.
Spot on. Because I always say, what's beneath all of that? What's the need to grow this business so quickly? Because survival, right? If you think about where I was a short 6 months ago and where I am now, we forget to celebrate the milestones in between and what we have been able to achieve. So I always look a little bit a layer beneath. And besides control is the surface level that need for control. But what's beneath control?
Yeah, what is it mirroring back to you? So even when I'm now in a situation, I actually had this very strange, I want to share with you if that's okay. This strange situation. I had a Karen moment. But you know that they say that Brad is Karen, right? So I'm living up to my name, right? It's like the male version of Karen. And I had a Karen moment, I must say I did. And I'm always so conscious about it. So what happened was I was meeting my colleagues, we all meet in one place and we travel together. And I was picking them up somewhere and I thought I'd pop into Starbucks and I'd grab a coffee. Now, our Starbucks has a door outside directly onto the parking area. And then it's got an inside the mall, it's got another door. So I went to obviously coming from the parking, I would use the parking door entrance, which I did. So I opened the door and the door's locked. And I can see on the counter, the guy helping people behind the counter turned and looked at the door, looked at me and looked away. And then I walked around and I got to the counter and I said, Bud, your door's locked. You need to open your door because you guys are open. And he said, no, we close it, we lock it for the weather. So I said, but then shouldn't you put a little sign on the door saying door closed or locked because of weather. It wasn't closed, it was locked. He says, no, unfortunately, we can't do that because we're not allowed to do that. So I said, okay, now that triggered me. And it triggered me because, yeah. And then I did process it, but it gets worse. So I say to him, now I'm like, hang on a sec. So I said, so let me get this right. You locked the door because you were cold. I am the customer and cannot access your store from the road. And I have no sign to tell me that. So how many customers are coming to the door, rattling the door, seeing that it's locked and walking away? And he looked at me and he just shrugged his shoulders and walked away. And then I turned to the other lady there and I said, well, thank you very much, but I'm not going to support Starbucks anymore. I think this is ridiculous. And I left and got my coffee on the other side of the mall from someone else. So even something silly as that has a hidden message. It's got some sort of mirror back to you. And it's not to say that you're not allowed to complain or you can't stand up for your rights, etc., etc. But we are constantly sent messages around our inner trauma and the emotional investment we have in our business. And we should use that as a gauge to see whether it's still serving us or not. Long story, but yeah.
I always love your vulnerability. And it's nice that we have also people in our corner. And it's even better if we have the awareness of self to be able to identify. Not everyone has the tools at their disposal, Brad, or has done the work on themselves, or has a coach that can hold up that mirror and reflect it back to us. So for those that are listening in, firstly, I just want to thank those that are here on Instagram. I'm not going to read everyone's names. And those that are joining from YouTube, please let us know if you are running your own business. Join in the conversation, type us a comment. How are you finding this topic? What resonates for you? Share an experience, and we'll be happy to share it and talk to it as one of the points today. But coming back, that mirror thing for me is big because it does highlight where we still need work on ourselves. It does highlight where there's scope for growth. It highlights where we're in the wounds of the past, as you say, because that's the traumas, or where we have the fears and doubts of the future. And that's ultimately for me what the mirror is always going to be about. More importantly, where are we in judgment? So,
where are we in judgment?
Where are we in judgment? But I like what you said earlier on. The mirror you held back to me was, what am I judging within myself? Because this person or individuals or this collaborators didn't deliver in the way that I had asked them or briefed them. And yet I'm now annoyed, but why am I annoyed? Like, what is that telling me?
What is it? What's kind of peeing me off? Is it the fact that they just didn't show up? Is it the fact that I had to spend money on this? Is it the fact that, and it's so freeing when you don't have that degree of emotional investment in your business. We were meant to be in Cape Town tomorrow, and our fly safe politely cancelled our trip to Cape Town, but not our return. So when I canceled the return, they charged me. And usually I would lose my cool about stuff like that, and I just took it in my stride and thought, okay, I'll sort this out later. It's not a priority for me. And later on, I was like, oh, I'm so proud, Brad, because you would usually just get so upset about stuff like this. So I think it's, when you run a business, there's so many pressures around you, but when you're emotionally involved, you're kind of supercharging those pressures. And that can be in a positive or a negative way. So, immediately when we are short of revenue, so we're going through a very difficult time in our business, and usually it would trigger me into just taking complete control of the business. But this time around, I've tackled it differently. I've gone and sat and said to myself, look, you've got people, partners, operators, and everything. They need to take responsibility of the situation. The best you can do is be the best kind of leader and to let them know that they're on the right course and they will get through this because you've been here before. But there needs to be fundamental changes, and the changes have to come from there. So because I've kind of disinvested emotionally, if I get one of the people in my team to kick back on that, it doesn't really affect me. I see it as a business obstacle, and I handle it in a structured way. I don't tie emotion to it. So that means you will not send a weird WhatsApp to someone, or you will not do this to that person. You will follow the structures of the business, and that is what will take your business forward.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm just glancing over to the other screen here, and I like another part of what you've written, which is very powerful for me. You are not your business. One of the most painful but necessary transitions a business owner has to make is this emotional disinvestment, not apathy, not detachment, but a deliberate shift of from identifying with the business to leading it. This means letting go of, and this is the powerful point of departure on that sentence I read, letting go of the belief that success equals sacrifice. Now, the letting go part, is this disinvestment then in a simpler way just for us to surrender control?
I think as a business, if you're a business owner, if you own your business outright, you have a vested interest in the business. Please, I want everyone to understand we're talking from a small business perspective. So we're not talking here corporate level. We're talking a specific type of small business owner. So that's Brad, that's Anissa, that's Joe who runs a florist, that's Sue that's got a plumbing company, that's got 4 vehicles. That's the kind of people, the everyday SMME. And some of us still own our businesses outright, and I think it is very important to keep that control. So I don't think it's letting go. I think it's the ability to disinvest to a point where you don't need to let go.
Well, talk more, because that kind of feels like there's a polarity in that.
Yeah, so look, when you disinvest emotionally, right? And again, we've tied this into, for example, you put your heart and your soul into your business. You're a one-man band. You're suddenly growing and you need to bring somebody else in. Then you've got somebody else coming in. Suddenly you've got a team of 3, 5, 6, 7. And your stress levels are growing as your team grows, because you've not only got a salary bill you've got to pay, but you're dealing with different personalities and people that are not invested as much as you are.
Yeah.
That then does one or two things to you. One, it sends you off to the golf course and you just disinvest completely from your business, and you put somebody in there and it just churns along like a tractor, or you become super controlling and you become this power, kind of this flexi power boss kind of person. You can avoid all of that if, as your team grows, you start to pull back your emotional investment and start looking at your business as a business. Yeah. Because when we start our businesses, we look at it as ourselves. This is us.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I just want to say hi to Au Naturel that's here on Instagram, all the way from Barbados. I'm kind of thinking I want to go to Barbados for a bit. I mean, wouldn't you? And leave the business and have some fun. Let's talk some fun. How do we bring in fun elements?
It's so serious. This is a very serious conversation.
I know it is a serious conversation, but to disinvest emotionally is also, to me, a part of not taking ourselves so seriously. Because if you're saying disinvesting is seeing the business as a business, it means removing ourselves out of it and not taking ourselves so seriously.
Yeah, I mean, remember, we all have some sort of trauma that we bring along with us. And I mean, we all come from different economies. So, our South African economy, a lot of us are in business because we don't have a choice. So we have that kind of sense of resentment already. That's an emotional investment that you kind of need to pull away from. But the fun side, I think what it does is it makes you a little bit like a home affairs person, like just a little bit
Wait,
less
those that are
emotional.
dialing in from other countries like Barbados, what is home affairs to them?
So it's like a person in your, I mean, Barbados will have it as well. I mean, every country has it. It's a government employee, basically. They have this like veil of, I would love to say veil of secrecy, which they do.
Yeah.
But it's they've got this beautiful innate characteristic. I don't know if you employed based on that to disengage with the person in front of them and just become quite robotic. But when you disinvest emotionally in your business as it grows, you still keep the passion. You still get up, you show up every day because that's what we do. But when someone lets you down or when you're triggered or something happens in your business, it helps you react in a certain way.
Mm.
So, like I mentioned, we're struggling in our business at the moment, and what this would usually keep me up at night. But because I've been able to step away and disinvest and say, well, look, this has happened. I'm not going to put emotion behind this. I'm not going to be frustrated. I'm not going to have anger. I'm not going to have, sympathy or nothing. I'm going to see this as a business and what it's going through, and I'm going to rectify it. And it immediately makes me sleep better at night.
I love that, Brad. I love it.
We have to, we have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to burn out. But I mean, Barbados is a beautiful space, but there's also stress levels there, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I mean, Natural did say beautiful year. So tell us, what are those stress levels and how have you had to emotionally disinvest, even if your environment, because that's the other thing I talk to a lot of my clients about. You have your inner environment and you have your outer environment. The inner environment is what Brad is referencing here today, is what exactly is sitting in your emotional state, what's beneath the surface, what are you, it's that iceberg. What are you not showing the world, but emotionally you're actually going through turmoil and chaos that is showing up in this high level of emotional intensity, that leads to outburst or that controlling factor. So if we're saying, as you state here as well, that this emotional disinvestment isn't a betrayal of your business, but it's an act of leadership. Is it more around leadership of self here in this regard? Because you're relating it so back to the trauma all the time. We get emotional because it's connected to trauma. But I want to question that. I feel the trauma is also related to an expectation of what it should be.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Expectation on what you believe. And the thing is, the reason why I say it's good leadership, and this is an external thing, is because you have an expectation on yourself how you show up. You've been doing it for so long as a business owner. You bring somebody into your team as you grow, you have that same expectation on them. And that's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to them. And you put that expectation on them because you're carrying a lot of emotion in your business. You're not seeing it as a business transaction. You're seeing it as your baby growing. So you will pull somebody in, and in an interview, they will say to you, love what you're doing, can't wait to work with you. They will invest emotionally in the interview, which will make you feel reassured this is the right person. But they're going to show up as an employee.
True.
And this is what I've had to go through. And you have to then sit and go, okay, this person showed up as an employee. However, I was kind of expecting them to show up as a partner, even though they're not. And
Yeah.
that's not realistic. And that is why we do struggle to grow outside of the owner phase. That is why a lot of us get comfortable with just ourselves and a PA or a secretary. That's why some of us grow and our staff are under our thumbs. We can't go to Barbados because, and I've seen it with many, many businesses, because as soon as we walk out the door, the staff just do what they want. because
Yeah.
we're not managing it, we're not leading correctly. We're leading from a space of emotional investment rather than a business transaction.
We keep talking Barbados, and so Natural says we cool out all the time, very relaxed because we have 365,000 people. We love our living coral island. No, you are enticing me to come to Barbados now, but
Do they have accommodation? Can we stay with them? Because
do you have accommodation? No, Natural.
yeah.
Can Brad and I take a trip and then just work remotely, emotionally disinvest from our business for a moment and come over there and explore and be curious? Anyway, I
I'm looking
digress.
it up.
And yeah, I also want to go look at Barbados more intimately now. So, Brad, I want to come back to the leadership thing. And then in the fact that people are employees, how do we then look at this? I mean, when you don't necessarily, as a small business, it's very difficult to grow and scale and bring on a core team. It doesn't happen for many small businesses, as you say, that they remain solopreneurs. But what happens in the context when these are collaborators that aren't ever going to be even an employee, but they're a collaborator? How do we manage those relationships when it's a very creative way and approach to grow and scale your business as a solopreneur? Because there you can't have emotional investment because it's an exchange of services between one another that is going to help you both grow and scale ultimately in that collaborative partnership. How
I
does one
think,
tackle that?
look, I do a lot of collaborating, and I do it because I think, in a way, I sometimes feel like it's safer for me.
Mm.
And it talks to maybe my self confidence around going at it alone. But also, even though I am an introvert by nature, I love collaborations because I work with other people and I always get to skill check myself to make sure, am I showing up the right way or am I getting lazy?
Mm.
What I'm doing now and what I'll be doing moving forward through this massive transition that I've gone through is to assess whether or not this collaboration is based on emotion or is it based on a business transaction? Because when you have an emotional collaboration, it makes that not reaching the targets a little bit shittier, to be very honest. And I'm sorry, I know we laugh, but if the vice presidents of the US can swear, I can swear, I guess. But yeah, I think it's this sense of, coming and sitting down and saying, I'm coming to you. You actually did it to me. Now that I remember it, when I spoke to you about our collaboration, you actually did it. And I don't know if you realized if you did it or not. You said to me, I'm very skeptical getting into collaborations. I'm very pro collaborating, but they've got to be collaborations that work and make business sense. And I actually absolutely love that response.
Mm.
And I think that is it. I think with collaborations, because no one is investing in each other's businesses, but you're relying on that person to show up for a
Yes,
shared income, you know, if that person doesn't show up and it's, Sue's going through a hard time at home. So you know what, shame. Man, let's let her be. I'll pick up the pieces for now. 3 weeks later, Sue's met someone else and gone to Barbados, and you stuck with everything, but you're still in a collaboration. You're going to have emotional resentment. But if you
exactly.
immediately dealt with it as a business transaction and said, Sue, I understand you're going through a lot. We have to end this collaboration because I'm not doing your side of the work.
Yeah, true.
Mm.
Listen, Unnatural says we definitely can come over. There's accommodation for us, okay?
Oh, Nisa, let's do
We'll
it.
connect with you afterwards.
Yeah, I'm
Send us
serious,
a
Nisa, let's
private
do it.
message. We are being serious. We'd love to come and explore it there.
Oh
Okay,
my word. And we
so
get to stay with someone local, which means we get all the lack of food. They look
yeah.
like super friendly people.
Oh man, he said pretty well. He or she. I don't even know if it's a he. What is your name, Au Natural? Because this is your Insta handle. But please introduce yourself as who you really are in terms of your name, if that's okay. Um, yeah, thank you, Eliswa, for joining. We've got more people: Hassan, Humaira Hassan, Rufian, Chatioka, Leah, Nisar. There's a lot. Loom. There's a couple of people here. It looks like Instagram loves this particular segment. Um, I think it's topical. Let's
Yeah,
continue the conversation around. I sent you something earlier that someone sent me.
I saw
And
sent you
I
this.
want to kind of mention it here without mentioning it fully, but even on my worst day, I am in awesome. So I think that statement, isn't that just like it sums up this emotional disinvestment part? Like on my worst day, I'm just going to still be awesome. What are your thoughts around that? I know it's a left field, not in the article, but talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm a huge advocate because of the community work. I'm very passionate with it, with working in community. I think I picked that up from my dad.
Mm,
My dad was a religious person who used to travel through Southern Africa and do a lot of kind of, they don't call it preacher work, but it is preacher work. And I talk to a lot of people who struggle to show up. I mean, I even struggle to show up sometimes. And the thing we always come to the realization is just show up. Even if you're wearing slippers and you're not supposed to be, or just show up, because there's something so beautiful in that whole showing up. But I'm focused now a lot on how do I show up and what am I bringing with me when I show up? Am I bringing childhood trauma? Am I bringing, all of the stuff that's going to get mirrored back to me when I show up? Or can I actually show up in a space where I've disinvested from that so that I can get mirrored back the success that I believe I'm putting out there? So I'm always a firm believer in your experiences dictate your spiritual rationale. If you're coming across a lot of friendly people, even in difficult situations, and you're facing challenges, but you're getting these little signs to get you out of these challenges, I feel like you're kind of pitching up in a good spiritual space. But when
yeah.
you have a day where you do show up and you bring all of this stuff with you, this emotional investment that you made, and you are mirrored with all this conflict, negativity, my suggestion is then stop, go
Mm,
play golf or go and swim in the sea, or take a step back. And if you're in a business that you cannot do that, then you need to learn the skill that our fellow government workers have, where you can actually just switch off, go into a bit of an autopilot mode, don't make any big decisions, don't put yourself under pressure to have to make immediate change, especially if a personality like mine has a lot of action.
mm.
Sit back and be in that space of limbo until you can show up disinvested.
And this was my frustration about Monday's experience that I alluded to earlier on. For me, it's if you are not emotionally sound to serve in the capacity that you're supposed to, it's okay, you know,
Mm.
but then say that you aren't and rather cancel or rather reschedule, or rather, if you are going to show up, say, well, I'm not in the right space, or I'm not in my most chirpiest happy-go-lucky state right now, but I'm here, I'm showing up. Please don't take it personal. I'm a bit quieter, whatever the case may be. Because for me, as I said, emotion is energy in motion. And I'm very intuitively connected to people's energies because I'm an empath. And I suppose there's another mirror for me, is that I feel other people's emotions and their energies. And if it's not great, because I'm so emotionally invested, that triggers me. And so I had to call off a session that was planned for Monday because I just could not connect energetically with the individuals. And I was like, okay, I'm rather just going to cut this short, because what's the point of a continued conversation or meeting or event if you're not feeling connected in those moments? And you can see the other person is not emotionally where they should be. So I was coming from a place of empathy that led into frustration in the end because the individual wasn't owning up. So for
So
me,
did you
that's
cancel the session on Monday?
yeah. I said I can't continue.
Yeah. So my immediate thinking is like, if it was me, look, it depends. If you still get your revenue, because even if the session is cancelled, or if it wasn't a revenue generating session, then
No,
there's no
it's not.
issue in cancelling it.
Mm.
But if you are getting paid, you would need to show up with that disinvestment. And I am
That's a
was
powerful point.
famous. Yeah, maybe was famous a while ago. If I didn't feel like showing up, pay or not pay, I just wouldn't show up. And that's not fair.
Mm, mm,
So, like I said, for me, and I don't know if this helps everyone listening in, and, I honestly just share what I'm going through because, I do struggle to show up, Anissa, you know that.
mm.
And it's something I'm working through, and it's a lot of processing work. But this beautiful space that I've transitioned into that I'm really loving is a space of limbo. It's kind of like, I don't know if you have experience swimming in the sea, and those are kind of listening in, watching in. When you're in the ocean, I remember I went to Mozambique, beautiful place. Gosh, such amazing people. And one of the local divers that, they dive for their food and stuff. One of the local guys took me out because I grew up in the sea. So I'm very good in the ocean. And they took me out. They said, come out with us. And at one stage, I couldn't keep up with them. They're just so amazing. They're just such natural fish, basically, that I just put my head down into the water and just floated. And that space of limbo gives you a great opportunity to really just observe. And yeah, the wave comes and knocks you over, and you get a little bit of water in your mouth. You sort yourself out, you come back there, and then you just kind of. So, yes, I think your Monday was traumatic, but you've limboed through it.
Yeah, I love this metaphor of the ocean and, like ebbing and flowing. So as the tide comes in, you're okay. You're still just going to stay in limbo of whatever that is. Limbo is also meaning, if I'm understanding your interpretation of it in this context, is to pause, right?
Look, you still show up, you still do your work, you still function, but I would not recommend making any sort of big decisions.
Mm.
And this is where you hold power as a business owner. I don't think a lot of us realize that we hold that power. You know what? I'll sign that contract. I will. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get to it today. I'll sign that contract maybe tomorrow when I'm in a bit of a better space, where I would go out and just sign it and be in a space of kind of really emotionally invested, and then the contract doesn't work out, and then you kind of carry all that baggage. So I feel like this concept is a difficult one, and I feel like I hope people are understanding where I'm coming from. But maybe the article will be a good read. So that's going to go live on the 1st on LinkedIn. If you guys can have a look if you want and read through that. And of course, comment. If you don't agree and you feel like I'm on this weird journey, tell me. Because with the communities that I speak to, and I say this over and over again, as business owners, we feel like we're alone. And we are, and it is lonely. It's very hard, regardless of where you are in the world. But what I'm saying is that there is a greater community right next to you, around you, everywhere. There's 300,000 of you on the island in Barbados. Some of them are business owners. Talk about this. Practice it. Use it as a superpower. Staying in limbo can be a superpower for you because it gives you perspective, helps you to detach emotionally.
I'm just listening to you talk about the community aspect, and I was on a entrepreneurs organization forum. It's, some of these entrepreneurial supports forums that it's for the first time I was not the practitioner, the subject matter expert or facilitator in a program, but I was an entrepreneur going through this program. And what transitioned from that afterwards was we will go into these little forums with other like-minded solopreneurs, SMMEs. And I didn't want to go into the session last night because it was like, it's 6 till 8, it's a family time. I haven't had a break the day. I haven't even prepped for dinner. But actually, when I went into that session and I put my emotions aside around what the urgencies are outside of everything else, there was a sense of belonging, unparalleled, that one gets outside of those sort of forums or group settings where there's common ground, And whilst we start off normally with a word, and I said, I'm like, what's your one word? I said, meh. I was in this meh state, like, like I
Meh,
didn't know what was going on for me because it's
meh.
just so much happening. At
I
the
love
end
meh.
of my one word, my parting word was supported, because I was able to put my emotions aside of all the things that I haven't got to, and the fact that certain things needs to happen in the business, or didn't go as planned, or I didn't have the full outcome or get to all the things that were on my tick box thing that I wanted to tick off. I think you're right that limbo does bring insight, is what I'm hearing you say. In those limbo moments, it just allows us to see a bit more clearer and to receive more. Because when we're in the chaotic state of this emotional investment, we can't receive. And I say receive, meaning we can't accept more than we already have so much emotionally invested in. But the limbo period sounds like a very great tool to just allow yourself to receive.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool. I think for some of us it's tricky because we are people of action. It's the sense that if I don't work, I don't get paid. No work, no pay. And if I don't work and no pay and it comes the end of the month, I look back and go, I shouldn't have done that. I should have actually done this, this, and this.
Mm.
But right now, sitting with you here, I think it could be quite a powerful tool.
Very powerful.
Because the last thing we want to be is what the world is right now, and that is reactive. We don't want to be reactive people. We want to be quiet. We want to be hunting. We want to be emotionally disinvested to the point where we're not triggered.
Yeah.
And we want to be in Barbados. When are we going? I'm like dead
Natural, if
serious.
you're still here, tell us when we're coming. When's the
I'm dead
best time to come
serious.
and visit you?
I just need to get a pair of baggies and get into shape, but I'm dead serious. And you say you're now going
No,
because
listen,
you went
I'm
all the
just as
way
dead serious.
because you went all the way to Istanbul, and I didn't even crack an invite. That's
So
my one.
Barbados, we're coming for you. Watch the space. Brad and Anissa is going to be there. Imagine us doing our live stream from the ocean, from this paradise of this coral island. Wouldn't it
Yes,
just be
making
blessed?
food and talking and jawling and dancing in the moonlight and
But hold on, something just came to mind here. Isn't emotional disinvestment, just living in the present moment as if we are living in this coral island? Because then it's a mindset thing. And I'm going off on another tangent right now,
no,
but
no, no,
but
no.
let's face it, we in this reactive, chaotic state survival. It's a survival for the fittest state because, as you say, no work, no pay. Delays in invoicing means no payment, even if you got the work. So there's a lot of consequences for certain actions or even certain limbos. But if we stayed present in the moment and we felt abundant in our businesses, I think that is another gem to be able to emotionally disinvest.
Yeah, it is. Remember, fear is an emotion. So
Yeah.
we always planning ahead because it's either, it's driven by an emotion. That planning ahead is something that is triggered from some sort of emotional, either it's a sense of lack or excitement, whatever it is, we're doing it from an emotional perspective. Okay, what's going to happen next month? What's going to happen? Like this today, I was driving and I caught myself going, crap, December's coming. We're already struggling. What's going to happen in December?
Yes.
And I had to kind of like, whoa, 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 stop the fear. Just invest. It's a business. It has to work. If it doesn't work, it needs to go and another something else needs to take its place.
Yeah.
Stop, you know, disinvest from that fear.
Yeah.
Keep it transactional. If you're worried about December, start putting a strategy in place that saves a little bit of money every month so that when you get to December, or prepare to get a loan, or you know what? Live in the moment. Use your resources you have available to get your business out of that space rather than live in that emotion.
Yeah. So
A
we
heavy
have
topic.
different.
Yeah.
It's a heavy topic, but one that is necessary because
Yeah.
we all live it and we wear the superficial mask of having it all together all of the time. And, I said to somebody the other day and just today, I'm so tired of everyone saying, well, Anissa, you're the strong one. Anissa, you the overcomer. You like the phoenix rising from the ashes every single time. Maybe I don't always want to be the strong one. And the friend of mine that now I've known for 30 odd years, he said to me, maybe it's about partnering with other big brother investment type partners where I can be in my natural essence. I can live in the present moment and think I'm on this coral island because there is no worry or concerns of the future. And there's no past stuff that's crippling me and sabotaging me, because how we sabotage ourselves is just the past stuff, right? And they patterns and belief systems that we need to break free from. So I think the limbo thing, for me, the departure point and the gem from today was the limbo, being in limbo. For
Okay.
another word would be for me definitely to pause in the moment so that we can become more present and less chaotic and less too emotionally invested. What would be your closing departure point here today?
I just love the growth that I'm experiencing, waiting in the trenches to see who's going to start the war. Literally sitting there with a smoke in my hand and a bucket helmet over my head and just waiting to see what's going to happen.
Mm. Are we talking about the actual war now, right?
No, it's just my mind visually.
Okay.
That sense of, shit's coming. Stuff's going to go down. You're not sure where
Yes.
it's going to come from. You're in the trench. This is it. This is your business. The only thing you have is your smoke and the stars and a coffee maybe and a helmet. And you're like, well,
Mm.
yeah, let me enjoy what I've got. Live in the moment.
Anyway, so we coming to a close. I want to say thank you, Brad. As always, I mean, we bring real conversations as we promised. We always bring real, raw, authentic discussions and our own lived experiences here. So we pray and trust that those that are listening in receive value, and we're open to your comments, or if you want to challenge our thinking around what we discussed today. But we really do value, I value this time with you on a monthly basis because it's almost that limbo state to get into a bit of reflection and to gain the insight. And there was many insights and many golden nuggets. I can't wait to read the article. So I'm going to say to those that are following either myself or Brad does post the article, which will come out on when?
It flights on the 1st, 8:30 on the
1st of
1st of
August.
every month is a new article.
Okay. So until next month, the last Wednesday of each month, we see you here, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much,
I'm going to end the live. Thank you, Natural. Get in touch with us. We want to come to Barbados.
For
Stay
sure.
on for a moment, Brad.
Sure.